And welcome. In this video we're going to be talking all about diesel fuel and diesel engines. We're going to be answering questions like what causes diesel engines to lose power and efficiency over time, how do diesel engines work, how are modern diesel engines changing, and how does fuel have a significant impact on the way modern diesel engines operate. So first off, a huge thank you to ExxonMobil for sponsoring this video. They actually provided me access to their engineers so I could ask all kinds of questions and learn all kinds of information about diesel fuel. And so what do we do with these hydrocarbons once we have them? Well, we burn them, of course, to make power. So the process is very similar to a gasoline engine, but there are distinct differences. So you have your intake, compression, power, and exhaust strokes, but there's a few little differences here. So with the intake stroke, you don't have a throttle, generally speaking, that's restricting that intake air. And so as a result, you have less pumping losses, and diesels tend to be significantly more efficient. For the compression stroke, you tend to use higher compression ratios because you're not using spark ignition, you're now using fuel to ignite it after that compression stroke has occurred. They also tend to use turbochargers, and as a result, they have more torque, and generally speaking, because of these higher compression ratios, they're going to be more efficient. So getting to our power stroke, instead of a spark igniting that air-fuel mixture, ignition is timed based on when you inject that diesel fuel. So this is a very critical component of how this entire engine works. And then you have your exhaust cycle. And a difference versus gasoline here is that diesels tend to run very lean. As a result, they have abundant oxygen available in the exhaust, which means three-way catalytic converters like those used with gasoline engines aren't effective, so different strategies like urea injection are used. Now, I mentioned the importance of the injector, and so this is an area where modern diesels are really trying to improve, and two of the ways they're doing that are increasing the pressure, extremely high pressures, over 2,000 bar, looking towards, potentially working in the 3,000 bar range, over 30,000 psi, so significantly orders of magnitude higher than gasoline engines, and they're also looking to decrease the size of the holes used. And so the reasons for this, with that higher pressure, they're able to get better penetration within the cylinder and spread out that fuel as wide as possible, as fast as possible. Also using those very small little ports, little holes on the injector, they're able to get a very fine mist that sprays out. So the combination with high pressure and smaller injector holes means better overall efficiency and more power created through better penetration within the cylinder and a finer mist, so it mixes better and burns very quickly. But there are also emissions benefits to using a finer mist and using higher pressures. And so if you kind of imagine, this is kind of an extreme comparison here, one injecting out quite further, great cylinder penetration, really spread out the fine mist versus, kind of a richer area right here. So if you think about if you were to burn all of this fuel in this area or all of this fuel in this area and you have the same quantity of fuel, because this fuel is spread out over a larger area, it's going to have lower local temperatures. All of this fuel is being burned in a much smaller area, so the overall temperature of that area is going to be higher. And because the temperature of that area is higher, more NOx emissions are going to form. NOx emissions are correlated with temperature, so the higher you get your temperatures, then the more NOx emissions you have. So you want to bring down local cylinder temperatures, local internal temperatures within this cylinder. So you can do that by spreading out the fuel as wide as possible. The other thing is, when you're spraying it, and if you don't have great penetration and it kind of just stays in this little dense area, then you have a richer air-fuel mixture within this area. And what this leads to is more particulate matter forming because you don't have complete combustion occur in those richer pockets of the air-fuel mixture. So the benefit is not just in power and efficiency, but also reducing particulate matter and reducing NOx emissions by having a better spray with that injector. Now here's where deposits come in and try to ruin everyone's day. So deposits in diesel engines is nothing new. It's the conditions that allow for that. So you have high temperatures and pressures, and this causes that fuel to oxidize, which creates deposits within the combustion chamber and around those fuel injectors. You can also have deposits form inside the nozzle as the fuel undergoes heat and pressure changes as it's cycled through the fuel system. The problem is that as modern diesel engines move towards finer and finer mists with very small holes on these injectors, then they become susceptible and very sensitive to irregular spray patterns as a result of those deposits. So a very small deposit, just a few microns in size, can create meaningful impacts on that spray quality of these injectors because those ports, those injector holes, are so small. So deposits can affect the spray's pattern, they can affect the spray's penetration, and they can even affect the spray's flow. And so ultimately this can mean a reduction in power, a reduction in efficiency, and an increase in emissions. Is fuel injectors, and as a result of heat soak, as a result of using poor fuel, these can get clogged up with time from particulates within the combustion chamber. And of course, if they're clogged up, it can cause misfiring, it can cause your air-fuel ratios to be thrown off, and as a result, you're going to be making less power. Piston rings wearing down, and this is one of those things that's a bit more challenging to replace because it requires stripping down the entire engine to get to those piston rings in order to replace them if you were needing to do that. Basically a whole engine rebuild. But these piston rings will wear against the wall over time, and over time as they wear you can have increased blow-by, and as a result you're getting less compression. And this one's going to play a big role in how much power you can create, and this is deposits on your valves, and more specifically your intake valves. So over time, especially in direct injection engines which don't have port injection where that fuel is being sprayed over the intake valve and constantly cleaning it off, and you have your positive crankcase ventilation system where you're sending oil back through your intake and then onto your intake valves where it can start to build up those deposits on it. So this can cause a lack of compression because that intake valve may not be able to properly seat in that valve seat, and it can also cause backfiring. As you're compressing back in, you may be able to squeeze some of that air and fuel past that intake valve, and as a result, you're not going to have good compression. You could have backfiring if that combustion is able to exit past that valve. And of course, it also plays a role with your air and fuel, as it can cause additional restriction for airflow to come by, and it can mess with your air fuel